Hey everyone, welcome back to today's live stream. Today is part 5, the final presentation of my career development workshop sponsored by our good friends over at Preppy. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about growing your career as a medical coder. So um what that's going to look like in your first year, how to set yourself up for success in future years, and all my tips and tricks in order to do that. If you're tuning in today, let me know where you're tuning in from. We are hitting fall weather finally in northeastern Pennsylvania, but not enough to hit the temperatures that I'm looking for. I'm desperately waiting for it to be like 60 to 50 degrees and to be buried underneath a hoodie and a blanket, and we're not quite there yet. But that's what I'm hoping for. I'm trying to bring in my friends from TikTok. I guess I should bring in my friends from Instagram too. I think I forgot Instagram the past couple of presentations that we did, and we definitely don't wanna forget Instagram because there's a lot happening over there. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I have been on fire lately with, with content, and I've been doing reels, I've been doing posts, I've been doing all kinds of stuff, and it's been great. It has been I have been popping off. So I don't know, 'cause I know sometimes people get too many alerts then, and they don't like that. So I don't know how that works as far as, like, if you guys like having that many posts but don't like the alerts, because sometimes it'll show that, like, people will unsubscribe to me because 'cause they're like, "Hey, Victoria, I don't like these alerts coming in." But yeah, without further ado, today we're gonna be going on to talk about career development in after you've gotten your CPC, like, once you've gotten your CPC and we're kinda going and flowing. Um, so excited to see some friends here today. I've got a friend in my area, Shamel. Oh, look at they changed how cool that looks, from Philadelphia. I always it's hard to tell time distance from how far I am from Philadelphia. Because depending on traffic, it might take me a little over an hour to get to Philly, or it could take me 2 hours to get to Philly, depending on the time of the day. But I tend to say that I'm from, I guess, the metropolitan Philadelphia area between Allentown and Reading, in that kind of general area. Got some friends coming in from San Juan, Puerto Rico. Hey, Stephanie made it in. Hooray! I'm loving this new lineup that we got here. TikTok, can you let me know if you can hear me? My audio on my phone is blinking instead of being steady like it's usually is, but the lights that let me know that my microphone is correct. I don't know what's going on here. Every time I use this one, it acts a little funny for me. So, I did log into my right account. Yes, I did, okay. Alright. So without further ado, let's get into today's live stream. Okay, welcome back from the introduction. I think this is, the introduction video that I have is titled on here, the 2024 theme. So I don't know if it's time for maybe for an update of the 2025. Also, every time I look at that, I'm like, oh, remember when I had that pink ombre hair? I really want to do something to my hair, but I'm waiting because I have a performance this weekend, and I'm waiting until after performance time because I wanna do something with it after that. I don't know. I always worry that I'm gonna, like, wanna dye my hair, and then I'll be halfway through a course and, like, the first 2 chapters of the course are gonna be me blonde, and then all of a sudden it's gonna switch over and I'm gonna have, like, dyed purple stripes or something, and people are gonna absolutely freak out about it. And then no one probably will, but, like, I mentally feel like people will. In any case, if you're new here, hi, I'm Victoria. I'm a medical coder, auditor, educator, and content creator. And on my channel, I provide tips, tricks, and tutorials to help you be successful in a medical coding career. If you haven't already, I highly encourage you to subscribe, hit the notification bell, do all of the things. We are live streaming through multiple platforms today: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and I got a whole different setup over here for my buddies over on TikTok. Hey, I'm excited because YouTube apparently soon is going to let me do the same stream, and they're gonna put it on the vertical, so if you wanna watch on your phone, you can watch, like, the vertical version, which is good for me because with TikTok, they don't let me do the screen share unless I'm doing literally an isolated TikTok stream. I love you TikTokers, but the streaming is it drives me a little crazy. Anyway, let's get into some of these slides today. I wanna talk about where am I? That's not what I wanna say, screen share. So, if you've not been following, this has been a 5-part career series that I've been doing with Preppy, who is the sponsor of this channel and provides wonderful medical coding education. Preppy was kind enough very early on in my career when I was like, "Hey, I'm Victoria. I'm going to teach you medical coding," to go like, "Hey, Victoria, we see your growth, and we don't think you're going to be able to handle the volume all of these people, and also we can give them things that you can't, like externships and laptops and a certificate from an actual college." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. There's no way I'm gonna be able to handle all of that on my own." So they take amazing, amazing care of all of my viewers by helping them get into a good training program. So I'm very, very honored every day that Preppy helps me out with that's not what I want either. To helps me out with sponsoring the channel. Look, my face is over my face. Sorry, TikTok, you can't see this. This is so weird. Look at it. Okay. Apparently I'm in a giggly kind of mood today. Serious business medical coding. Uh, but yeah, today we're going to be diving into getting into the last part of our career series. We've talked about how to get into medical coding. We've talked about getting your resume to get it together, how to find that first coding job. And now we're going to talk a little bit about like how you keep growing your coding career and things that you need to kind of tackle after the CPC. A lot of people think that getting the CPC is the finish line, and it's actually not. It's one of those close final hurdles, but you really have to keep going and you have to keep that motivation and momentum throughout your entire career search in order to be successful in this career. And the career search, I mean, it's not even our industry. Um, the job field, the job market has it's some pretty dramatic changes lately. You hear this mixed bag of everything that's going on these days. Some people are saying that no one's even reading resumes anymore. It's just AI bots talking to other AI bots. In medical coding, we have certain certifications. Sometimes the recruiters don't know all the deep ins and outs of all the different certifications because some of them, if they're just employing for a hospital, they might be employing medical coders and medical records people and nurses and all kinds of different techs and so forth. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. So when we are getting our CPC, we have to celebrate that win and be so excited about it. But then also go, okay, I did it. I've got it. But what are we doing next? So, really, that first year in medical coding, it can kind of feel like you're trying to drink from a fire hose. Like there's so much coming at you at once. But this is where you have to be able to take some pauses and work on a couple of fine-tuning things to help you build confidence, to help you earn trust, and to really set more foundation to shape that future path in the industry. And again, thank you so much to Preppy for helping to sponsor this series that we're doing. Okay. Getting into some slides. And if you have questions that come up as you're going along, I am keeping an eye on the different chats. Uh, Let me just pop in on Instagram. Have to switch back and forth there. Okay. No questions coming in yet. Nothing on TikTok. All right. Cool, cool, cool. So, um, when you start out in your first coding role, and I talked a little bit about this in one of my recent videos. It's called Your First 30 Days as a Medical Coder. I think I published that one. I think that was last week. And it talks about like some of the things that you are going to encounter during your well, this probationary period as a medical coder when you first get that coding job. Um, so it's going to take a little bit of time. You have to get comfortable with things like whatever the company's EMR is and billing software and different workflow processes. Every now and then you think you have everything together. You're like, cool, I've got Epic down. And they're like, hey, but we forgot to tell you, like, we have one nursing home and there's a doctor that works there 2 days a month and he's old school. So he still writes paper notes and we have to wait for the nursing home to scan over the paper note, like, those odd things still spring up. Sometimes there might be certain specialties if you're in a large organization that that specialty has their own special software that they might have to use because it's specific to oncology or something, and it just works a little bit better, so, um, there's a lot of systems, there's a lot of access to those systems, so it might be a struggle a little bit in the beginning to figure out who you even need to excuse me, who you even need to contact to get access to some of the different software. And, you might find out later on, surprise, that you should have had access to certain things that maybe you didn't get access to. Every organization does things a little bit differently. So you have to, during that time frame, give yourself some grace and concentrate on what you can control, right? So concentrate on are you getting the right training for things like Epic or Cerner or Athena or whatever system you're working in? Are you staying up to date on your coding? Are you familiar where to get certain specific policies that your company might have? Like, hey, when we are looking at medical decision making for prescription drugs, here's how we interpret that, and here's how we are going to follow those regulations within our organization. Um, so where can you access those? Where are they stored? Getting familiar with some of those internal policies as well for some of those gray areas that we might have in medical coding where they're a little bit up to interpretation and you need to know, well, what is our company's interpretation of that? Um, so yeah, it's kind of like if you know how to drive a car, but different cars drive a little bit differently, right? So anyway, ask a lot of questions, seek feedback from people. If you have senior coders that you can talk to or coders that work in the same specialty as you, team leads, those are probably your best first resource. And don't be afraid to ask questions and take notes. Now, if you're working remotely, be careful about where and how and what you're allowed to take notes on because there might be situations where certain information might be kind of private to the company and they don't want you keeping paper notes or something. Um, and focus more on accuracy versus speed. People are more flexible with your speed growing over time, but they really want to start seeing some, I don't want to say perfect levels of accuracy, but they want accuracy to be higher valued in the beginning over your speed. It's not going to look too good if you can do a ton of charts in an hour, but all of them are bad. They'd rather say, "Okay, well, you only did a handful, but they were all very, very good. Maybe there's a little tweak here or there. You didn't sequence this right." That's probably preferable because the speed can kind of pick up over time. As you become more familiar with systems, you're going to pick up speed when you know where to look for notes, how to get to um, inpatient admit, or how to get to a different note, or how to get to pathology reports, or if you need to query a provider, what their query system looks like. If it's going to be something internal, if they're going to make you email the provider, like what that's going to look like. Um, so really kind of set your foundation in accuracy to start versus speed to start. The speed will come with time. The accuracy is going to help you do things like prevent compliance issues or prevent denials that are going to happen down the road. Um, and as you're going through, one thing I will also mention is I'm always very focused on, you know, setting the foundation so that you're good in the future. So, for example, I love my annual reviews because to me, it's like the time to brag about all of the amazing things that I've been doing throughout the year. So, even though you have a million things that you're trying to focus on when you are working through all of the ins and outs of becoming a medical coder and getting into all of these different aspects and systems. Remember that you're gonna need to show proof of how awesome you're doing, right? So I always like to keep a list of wins. If someone sends me a compliment, that goes in a special email box. If I get, hey, I passed my audit and I got 99% accuracy, we're going to tuck that away somewhere. So that way it makes it much easier at the end of the year when it's like, hey, it's time to rate yourself so that you can determine for your annual review how well you did. And that's going to impact, your potential for raises or bonuses, or if you can move to another department or specialty. Like I like to go, okay, well, let me go here. Okay, well, I have this letter here that they said I did a really good job, or I have, this 99% audit accuracy score, the 100%, or I did this workshop. Remember, you guys asked me to do this workshop. It's a lot easier to have those filed away versus having to scrape for them at the last minute and go, "Oh, yeah, crap. I think what was it that I did that was really well over the year?" Because it's quick to forget about that stuff. Mm. And I apologize. I apparently did not bring myself a single cough drop today, and I've got a little tickle in my throat. So I'm trying to calm it right now with coffee. I had some no, maybe I took them out. Hold on one second. Mm. Oh. I thought at one point I had some chloroseptic tabs, but maybe not. Oh my god, there is a giant spider web on the corner of my monitor. Eee. I gotta take care of that then. Okay. Um, yeah, so keep a running list of all of your wins so that when you have that evaluation, even if it comes a little sooner, like maybe you think you're not getting an evaluation for a year, but you're gonna get it at 30 days or 60 days or 90 days. You have like, here's the concrete examples of here's the times that I did overtime for you guys, or here's the time that I started studying for this extra certification. Um, Different companies want to weigh some of those things a little bit differently as far as like, hey, um, are we going to count that I did external training or not? Because sometimes I've been in organizations where honestly, I have gone so crazy above and beyond in my industry and scored poorly in certain areas because I didn't do overtime because I had a newborn. So you never know. You never know. But one of the other hurdles, once you pass the CPC, some people are very shocked, and I feel like I feel like I mentioned this, but I guess I don't mention it quite enough that been missed in some of my videos that I've not talked about it, is the apprenticeship status. There's people that they go in, they take the CPC exam, they're like, "Yep, I'm gonna be a CPC," and they get their certificate and it says CPCA, and they go, "What the hell is that?" Um, so when anyone takes the CPC exam, if you do not submit that you have 2 years experience or the equivalent, you will automatically be designated what is called a CPCA or CPC apprentice. There's only 2 certifications that the AAPC has that are apprentice certifications. One of them is the CPC and the other is the COC or Certified Outpatient Coder. I don't know, there's been talk from the AAPC for years about potentially getting rid of this apprenticeship designation. The problem with that is they built so much structure around it, and there's a lot to think about with, if we get rid of the apprenticeship status, what about the people who are in the middle of getting it removed? What about the people who have already paid for Practicode, et cetera, et cetera? So there's a lot of consideration there, a lot of consideration. So, I've probably been hearing that the AAPC has been working for, oh my god, it's probably been the past 5 to 10 years. I've heard that they might get rid of that apprenticeship status and that they wanna come up with a competency sort of thing instead. Um, I know Mike Misko, who's been on the legal advisory board and has served on one of the national advisory boards, has been kind of vocal about his support of it, but to date, it still hasn't happened. It's still, I guess, in talks. But I would not get super excited about that until we kind of like see something definitive from the AAPC. No other credentials have the apprenticeship designation other than the CPC and the COC. So if you are a CPCA and you get any other credential other than the COC, it's not going to have the apprenticeship status. So you can technically be, Barbara says my allergies might be acting up. It could be those fall allergies. Um, so you can technically have a CPCA, but then also have a CPMA and or for A is for auditor, or a CRC or a CIRCC or your CPB, and none of them will have that apprenticeship designation. Just the CPC and or the COC. Once if you have a CPC and a COC, you only have to do like one removal. You don't have to remove each of them. But the way that you remove that apprenticeship designation, you can submit the information prior, like if you have 2 years experience prior or the equivalent prior. The old school way, the way a lot of us had to do it way back before our Practicode became super, super prevalent was just to get 2 years of experience. I actually hit a bit of a barrier myself. I went through a local program with a coding instructor, and I saw about the contact hours and that would remove 1 year, and I had 1 year of experience, and I'm like, "Great, I have this experience through the, medical coding instructor. I'll have her, get me a certificate, and then I can submit that and get my apprenticeship status removed." Well, it has to be 80 contact hours, and I had only had, like, 62. So I was stuck getting another year of experience in order to have my apprenticeship status removed. So in any case, um the way that you can have your apprenticeship status removed. 2 years experience, but there's a couple of things that will each individually remove 1 year off of that requirement. The CPC oop, yeah, okay, good. The CPC, apprentice status does never automatically remove. You have to submit information to the AEPC in order to prove that experience or the equivalent in order to have it removed. Um, the ways that you can do that, one of them is I talked about those education hours. If you have 80 contact hours of education, and it doesn't have to be an approved institution, it doesn't have to be an AEPC approved, it doesn't have to be through a special tech school, it doesn't have to be through a special college. You just have to prove that 80 contact hours, and that will contribute to 1 year of removal. Preppy will give you information, official documentation of the contact hours that you have for medical coding education hours so that you can remove, some of those stuff. Hold on, let me see if I can someone's saying I'm having connection issues on TikTok. Let's see if I can get the swipe you over to get Yeah, my Wi-Fi in I'm in the basement of a, I'm in the basement, ooh, there we go, of co-working space. So my internet here can be a little bit touchy sometimes. I actually have to manually plug in. That should be a little bit better for the TikTok connection. Okay. So 80 contact hours. That has to be official documentation. It can't just be like a little letter. It has to be on either the college gives you a letterhead or they can prove somewhere that they have the 80 contact hours. They have this on the AAPC website. If you go into Google and you type in like AAPC remove your A, it will give you their website information as far as the apprenticeship status removal. And let me switch over my screen share real quick. I thought I had this over to my second screen. Mm, let's see, remove screen share, entire screen. There we go. Screen two. Okay. So if we look on the AAPC website, what it tells us, and I apologize, TikTok and Instagram, I don't have the screen share capabilities for here, but when they talk about the 80 contact hours, it has to be da, 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 um, 80 contact hours. I know it's on here somewhere. Submission requirements. Okay. Uh, documentation proving completion of 80 hours of medical coding training if another from the AAPC, or if another course is utilized, the following must be provided: an instructor letter on school letterhead verifying completion of at least 80 contact hours, a certificate or diploma stating at least 80 contact hours, not CEUs, or an unofficial school transcript showing at least 80 contact hours. So that's how you can prove your contact hours, through those through means, those three means. And that's the way that you can remove, and that just removes one of the years. It doesn't remove both of them. The other way that you can remove 1 year off that requirement to get your apprenticeship status removed is through completing Practicode. Practicode is a module that you have to pay for. If you get like a bulk package from the EAPC, sometimes they do include it in there. Um, depending on what you get with the AAPC, I know they have like different tiers. They have one tier that's like a less expensive one that's like, hey, we'll give you the education and your books and it's going to cost less. And then like, okay, you can have this package and you get an instructor and you get weekly meetings and you get Practicode and you get all this stuff. So depending on what, if you bought directly from the AAPC, the education, you might have Practicode included in your package. If you got education from a tech school or from Preppy or somewhere else, and you want to complete Practicode, you do have to pay separately for it. Practicode is a set of uh, six 600 coding cases, and you have to get an overall school score of 70% or higher in order to complete Practicode. And once that you get that completion of Practicode, that will count for 1 year of experience towards that apprenticeship status removal. So, um, that is something that you can do. It is a little rough. They have made some changes over the years. Historically, it's been very not supported. So it's not like something that you have a question or you're not sure about something and there's someone live and ready to chat with you about it. There's a lot of issues with support. You have to email in. It would be like taking a class. Like you don't have immediate constant access to your instructor anytime you take a class. You have to email or wait for a response. So technically, if you complete Practicode and you have 80 contact hours, you can just submit all of that and get your apprenticeship status removed. Again, the apprenticeship status doesn't automatically remove at any point. You have to submit for it to be removed. Um, if you want to do 2 years experience, or you need to do 1 year experience in Practicode or 1 year experience and the 80 contact hours, There's also submission requirements for that as well. You have to get something from your employer to prove that you had the employment there and that you were using ICD-10-CM, CPT, HCPCS, some kind of code set on a regular basis during this job. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a job where your title is medical coder or medical coding specialist. It can be something where you are just working with code. So it might even be prior authorization. It might be something where you're working in billing or the revenue cycle. So yeah, so that's what we're looking at. If you look on the website, it does tell you that it has to be submitted on company letterhead. It has to be hand signed, dated, include contact information, and all the information is there on the AAPC website. So, employment verification, submission requirements, employer verification of at least 1 year on the job. And it does also say that only employers, supervisors, or an HR department can verify the time spent coding within the organization. So it can't be like a friend that you worked with or a coworker. It has to be your employer, your supervisor, and HR department. They have changed this, I think, a little bit over the years because I think originally you needed like a letter from your boss and a coworker. Um, but yeah, so it's a little tough. The reason that the apprenticeship status removal is a little bit important is while doing things like completing Practicode and doing the 80 contact hours don't quite count as experience in the eyes of employers. Remember how I mentioned about those recruiters? And sometimes we have recruiters and they recruit for a ton of positions within a hospital. So they might be doing medical records and coding and ultrasound techs and all kinds of stuff. So they don't know all the deep ins and outs of all these different credentials. And they may have just been told, oh, well, CPCAs are apprentices and we don't want apprentice coders. So do not hire any CPCAs. So once you've got that A removed and you're a full-fledged CPC, there is a little bit more leverage there for some of those types of positions. Because some recruiters are just told don't hire CPCAs and that's all they know and they go, "Okay, well, I just won't hire any CPCAs. We'll just hire the CPCs." And again, programs like Preppy do include the 80 contact hours. If you want to find out more about Preppy specifically, you can head over to medicalcodingmasterclass.com, and that is my free career masterclass that Preppy and I have put together to talk to you and anyone else interested in getting into a career in medical billing and coding about what you need to look for when you are getting into this career. And you can find that again at medicalcodingmasterclass.com. Now, getting into our next topic. And specializing for career growth. So once you've gotten once you've gotten your CPC, they it's funny to kind of say it like this, but sometimes getting your coding credential, your first medical coding credential, is kind of like getting a tattoo. Like you get that first tattoo and you're like, hmm, I could maybe go for some other tattoos. You like once you get your once you get your hold on, let me get back into TikTok. My connection. Go live. There we go. So once you get that first one, you're like, oh my gosh, like what's the next thing? What's the other thing I can do? And it really comes down to your goals as a medical coder, right? There's some people who despise CPT coding. It's not my favorite. I'm more of an ICD-10-CM girl. And the perk with ICD-10-CM is you don't have to worry about those pesky copyright issues with like you do with CPT because the AMA owns all of the rights to the CPT code set. ICD-10-CM is more free use, PCS free use. So if you don't like CPT coding and you're like, "Bleh, I don't want to have to deal with this at all," you can get into risk adjustment, and risk adjustment just deals with ICD-10 CM coding. So you might want to get a certification like the CRC. If you're someone who's like, "Hey, I want to really deep dive into these notes and provide feedback of, okay, if something was found to not be correct or give some information about providers and their documentation," you might want to get into more so auditing and being able to look at some things that were denied and go, "Oh, you know what? Actually, this was denied incorrectly," or, um, "The insurance is saying that we don't have the right documentation to support this." And yeah, we do. Or, "Hey, I want to look at the provider's documentation and determine, where there may be some gaps, where were there some areas where they put some things in the documentation that were conflicting, and you wanna do a lot more analytical information and feedback and are willing to provide that feedback, you might wanna get into auditing and get your CPMA. There's also specialty certification. So if you want to specialize in OB coding, if you want to specialize in dermatology coding, if you want to specialize in E&M coding, there are certifications for that as well. You can also get dual certified. So say you're like, "Hey, I'm going to start with my CPC and then I'm going to get a bunch of other certifications from the AAPC." You can do that. Now, the one thing I will say is if you decide to get certified through the AAPC and then you also decide to get certified through AHIMA, that means that you're going to have to pay 2 annual sets of membership dues, and you're also going to have to submit 2 sets of continuing education units. Now, some of them will cross over. AHIMA has been tightening up some of their CEUs a little bit lately. I'm not sure what the latest and greatest on that is because I'm not a member of AHIMA, but I know they were saying like, oh, a certain percentage of your CEUs have to come through AHIMA, and now they've kind of dialed that back. And now I know they're still having website issues with people even submitting their CEUs. So that is something a lot of people like to do. They're like, "Hey, I wanna have certifications through through AEPC and through AHIMA, so I'm covered on both ends." AHIMA, you know, they've gone through some rocky terrain recently. I know they're making the steps in the right direction. I know they want to do well, but it's still a little I don't know, there's just certain things about it that just still make me a little suspicious, I guess. Um, but historically, the the AAPC has been more aligned with professional fee coding, so pro fee coding, and AHIMA has been more aligned with inpatient facility coding, coding for reimbursement for hospitals and medical facilities that are patients that are admitted inpatient to the hospital. So, what certifications you wanna get is a little bit more personal as far as your interests. Some people wanna go with things that they're like, "Hey, what could I make the most doing?" Which is why it's important if you are a member of the AAPC to submit your salary survey information. Every year, the AAPC sends out a survey to all of their members and says, "Hey, how many hours a week are you working? What kind of organization are you working for? How much are you making?" Um, and they gather all of that information, and then every year they publish the salary survey. And some people don't like the results of the salary survey because they find out that they might be making too little, or some people are like, "Oh, I love this. I'm making a whole lot more than some of my peers." Um, but it's important that we have all that feedback because if the only people responding to the salary survey are the people that want to brag about how much money they're making, it's going to skew the numbers, right? All of that data is not based off of the employers submitting what their employees are making. It's based off of all of the membership of the AEPC voluntarily submitting that information. There was someone I think on LinkedIn not too long ago that was really upset and he was like, "Oh, the AEPC, they're lying and telling you that you can make this much money and that's not true. No one's making that." And it's like, "Dude, it's based off of the salary survey. It's literally the information that they're getting from their members." So, I don't I don't know what you wanna do about that. It's they're not, like, pulling numbers out of thin air. It's literally what the membership is reporting that they're making. So, there are geographic differences. You know, areas that have higher cost of living are gonna have higher pay than some other areas. And your specialties can also increase your pay. Certain specialties, like interventional radiology, tend to pay more because it's more complex. Certain types of coding pay more because they are considered more complex. Inpatient facility coding does tend to pay more than pro fee coding, which is another reason why people like to go, oh, maybe I want to get my CCS through a HEMA. But you can also get your CIC, which is your certified inpatient coder, through the AAPC, and more employers are taking that for inpatient coding positions. Um, Historically, when we look at the salary survey, some of the top ones are working in education or working in compliance. Now, compliance is not something that I feel like you would be able to get a credential for with no experience and then just like go right into compliance. Most of the people that respond to the salary survey that they have that CPCO, the Certified Professional Compliance Officer credential, have some years of experience as well. We've kind of seen that through the trends. So they tend to have more pay because they've been working in healthcare for a longer period of time. They understand the more ins and outs of compliance. It's not like something you can just get that certification for and then you go, here you go. Now give me my $80,000 compliance job. Compliance can be something that a lot of people like to switch over to. As a coder, compliance is a part of what you do, but we have entire departments in compliance that do more than coding. They're also checking contractual information. They're checking, um, that providers are within their scope of practice and all kinds of other aspects outside of coding. But yeah, if you're monetarily inclined and want to kind of just work whatever gives you the most earning potential, check some of those salary surveys and see what the feedback is from members. The other thing to consider is there are some coders that have increased their earning potential because they work remotely and they might have a full-time job and a part-time job because they don't have to commute. They don't have to worry as much about, all of those other aspects. They just stay home and code charts all day. And there are some positions that are pay per chart. So for example, I was working a contract job recently where um, the charts per hour for E&M were, I think, like $2 and change, so I think it might have been 275 or something, and there were other similar, reimbursement for some of the charts. So if you're only coding 10 E&Ms an hour, yeah, you're only getting 20 some dollars an hour, but if you're someone that's pounding out E&Ms because 'cause you're hyper focused and can get 15 to 20 done in an hour, which I've done, you can get quite a good quote unquote hourly rate out of that. So there are some opportunities where if you can stay hyper focused and you can just really pound out some of those charts and those paper chart positions, it is can be a very good earning potential. Mhm. And again, this is live, so if you have questions as we're going through some of the information, feel free to let me know in the chat. I'm getting a question here. Where do you get the jobs? So there are different places that you can check. I would recommend, the traditional ones, Indeed, Google Jobs, LinkedIn, and the AAPC has a job board as well. It's jobs.aapc.com. All of those websites you can also filter by experience. So if you're looking for something that is more entry level, it might help you to filter, but the filters are really only as good as the input from the employers putting the positions up. So if they didn't set it to be an entry level position, it won't show up in the filter. I'd also recommend when you're working through your job search to search for terms like ICD-10 because that will pull up a pool of all of the positions where they maybe mentioned they want certain coding skill sets, even though that title might not be medical coder or medical coding specialist. Um, Now, as a medical coder, you also have to consider continuing education. There's a certain amount of CEUs that you have to complete every year as a medical coder, 36 every 2 years if you just have one credential. And then it keeps going up. I think it caps at, I want to say 50, depending on how many certifications you have. I have multiple certifications, so I have to get a whole bunch of CEUs, and some of them have to be very specific to the credential that I hold. So I have a credential for family practice coding, and a certain amount of that continuing education credits I get, they have to be towards family practice coding. That's why sometimes it's easier to do things like buy the webinar subscription through the AAPC because you know that you can meet some of those specialty requirements. Specialty CEUs, what I've found historically is if you need specialty CEUs that you have something that's like a specialty in dermatology or in OBGYN, if you can't find something that's very specific to that specialty, a lot of the presentations that are for code updates, so ICD-10-CM updates, CPT updates, will also carry to a lot of specialties, and also things like E&M will also carry through for all the specialties. I have a little trouble because I have a credential that was actually sunset some time ago by the AAPC for plastic and reconstructive surgery coding. So I get to keep my credential. I have to keep getting CEUs for that credential, but currently they're not letting anyone else test for that because it was determined that the upkeep cost of having to produce new tests and study materials and pay people to review all of that was not being offset by the amount of people that wanted to sit for that credential. So they weren't making enough money off of it to make any kind of make a reasonable profit, we'll say. But you can earn CEUs through AAPC chapter meetings, which is super, super important in this industry to even attend for networking. And you get, do I have one here? Here we go. So, as an AAPC member, you get AAPC the magazine. If you are like, "Victoria, I've never seen this magazine before in my life," it's because your account is probably set to get the digital version of it. They default your accounts to the digital version. There is a little box, though, that you can uncheck in your profile under your email and, address settings that if you uncheck the box, it will send you the physical paper copy. So this is packed and packed and packed with lots of cool information, and you can get CEUs if you read the magazine and go online and complete a quiz based off of the information in the magazine. So there's lots of really free and cheap ways to get CEUs through the AAPC. And then consider some of those advanced credentials as you're going through, the CIRCC for interventional radiology and cardiovascular coding, CRC for risk adjustment. If you're interested in risk adjustment coding and you have a good foundation of ICD-10-CM, that's not the website I want at all. And you have a good foundation of ICD-10-CM and you're like, "You know what? I think I can kinda self-study for this. I just want to, buy the study guide and, kinda maybe get some practice exams and self-study." I do have a course that you can buy for that. It is the Risk Adjustment Coding Companion course. That one is $100. I do have a coupon for it. I think it's YTCRC sale, and that takes I can't remember if it's 20% off. I'll have to double check that. I also have the professional coding review. So if you need a review or a refresher for sitting for your CPC exam, that's available as well. It's all on demand. You can access it whenever you like, and it's more self-study geared. It's not like I have weekly meetings for them. They're on demand. That allows me to keep the cost down and allows me to focus on doing other things as well, like live streams posts, making tons of content, because I do not have I do not have a team of people behind me. Um, I'm too flaky for that. I'm just far too flaky for that. But yeah, networking is huge in this industry. I've known supervisors, managers who like, I prefer when my candidates are involved in their local chapters because it shows that they're very committed to this industry, that they're very committed to continuing education, they're willing to learn. Um, and I think it's important, when you connect with other local chapters, sometimes they have some insights about positions that might be opening up in their organizations and can kind of help you navigate some of those waters of finding your first job. Um, we talked a little bit about the career paths, auditing and compliance. I feel like if you're like Victoria, I got my CPC. I don't know, just tell me what to do next. CPMA is not a bad choice. I think that's a good default. It's that next step, and maybe it won't land you an auditing job immediately, but it's a really good thing to have in your back pocket if you're looking for a level 2 position, or you're looking for a senior position, or you're looking for a switch to auditing. It's better to say to your potential employer or your current employer, I already have this auditing credential. I've already demonstrated proficiency and knowledge in this area versus going, well, like I thought about doing the auditing credential. I was thinking about it. Having that proof that you've already made that step, that you've already demonstrated that proficiency, you pass that certification exam. You don't get credit for thinking about doing stuff. You get credit for actually doing it. Um, but yeah, AEPC's even been developing different new credentials. What's the latest one? Value-based care. There's a lot of extra room to grow and learn. But yeah, some people, they like to freelance. They like to get into consulting, management, leadership. Some people really like working with the electronic medical records, and they become specialists in Epic. One of my friends is a I think some of like one of my best friends in the industry is one of the best probably the best. I'm just gonna say the best expert witness out there in medical coding. So she gets paid very well, but her job stress is like through the roof because she works with lawyers and has to present in court and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, if you want to set yourself up for long-term success, work on your professional goals, figure out your strengths, your weaknesses. Are you someone who's like, I just want to get into this specialty because I really love it? I want to get into contract coding. I want to become an educator. I want to become a consultant. I want to become, maybe I like coding, but I don't like doing day-to-day coding. So I'm going to go become, an EMR guru or work in compliance. But stay adaptable. You want to kind of get feelers out in lots of different areas. I was someone who was very adamant early in my career where I'm like, I love plastic surgery. All I want to do is plastic surgery. And they're like, Victoria, you should really do other things. I'm like, no, no, I don't want to do other things. I just want to do plastic surgery. They're like, no, you should really, you know, get into other areas and aspects just a little bit. And then I did, and I still love plastic surgery. Um, the expanding was helpful. Expanding was helpful. And you don't have to be an expert in everything, but it's sometimes nice to have like a little bit of a feeler in different areas. Offer to do things like cross train, offer to learn other specialties so you can cover well for people while they're out. And, remember your career is a marathon, not a sprint. Marathon, not a sprint. Okay, I've got a couple of minutes to go. I am getting massive group chats right now about whether or not I'm getting a pedicure today, with some girlfriends. So I'm trying not to look, but it looks like I might be leaving at 3 o'clock to go get a pedicure. But if you have questions, let's see what we got here coming in from TikTok. What do you recommend for me to start looking for inpatient jobs? They ask for experience. Yeah. So, that's the the trick with I mean, it's not just medical coding, any position, they want experience, but no one wants to give you the experience, right? I would just start looking for any positions through Indeed, through the AAPC job boards. If you're with a HEMA, start going to some of your HEMA meetings. And I would search for anything that says ICD-10 PCS if you're looking for an inpatient facility type job. And that'll help kind of navigate something that may be even inpatient adjacent. Uh, I got my CPCA. I now work as an HCC adjuster at my first job. Congratulations. Should I get certified for it? I don't think it's a bad idea to get certified as a CRC, a certified risk adjustment coder. I think something really terrible to yeah, yeah, don't say that, Victoria. Sorry. Intrusive thoughts. Oh my gosh. Uh, I think that you can work towards your CRC. Understand that sometimes some of the program policies or contract policies that you might have are different than the AAPC outlines because they focus really on coding clinic. They focus on sequencing. Um, so I think if you're already working in it, it shouldn't be too difficult. But I still think it would be a good idea to get your CRC. A lot of positions in risk adjustment now do take the CPC because it does include ICD-10-CM, but I think demonstrating that specialty is not a bad idea. And you might be one that wants to look into even just getting the CRC study guide. Sometimes they have those packages for the certifications, especially if you're already a member and have one certification, that they'll say, "Hey, if you buy the exam voucher, we'll include a study guide or and practice exams," or sometimes they'll do, "Hey, if you buy the practice exams, we'll include the study guides." Check out some of those specialties. Another thing, if you guys are like, "Hey, I think I have time to wait a little bit," Black Friday, keep an eye out, keep a budget together because around that time, Black Friday and Christmas, the AEPC has a ton of different deals on programs. I'm actually very fortunate because a couple years ago, I bought their all access career pass. So I can take basically any one of their credential programs, I think except for the CIRC, one at a time. And when I finish it, I can just switch over to another one. But I had to pay them, I think like I don't remember three or $4,000 or something to do it. It was quite a chunk of change. I think I have another year and a half. No, maybe not even that. Maybe a little under a year now to start working through them. Yeah. Lynette says, "I have my CPC and auditing E&M outpatient." I like E&M outpatient. Yeah, I'm I'm still waiting. I'm supposed to start a contract job soon on E&M. It's supposed to be the 16th, and now it's been kinda quiet, so we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, I have to run, and I also have to check my group chat about whatever is going on here. But thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this career series workshop. If you have ideas of other workshops you would like me to cover on live, I am certainly open to all kinds of discussions. I'm working on getting some more case studies together because I've been seeing a big demand for the case studies that I've been doing, going through actual coding cases. Everyone seems split between multiple choice versus coding from scratch. But definitely stay tuned to the channel. I've been posting a ton of content. There's been little short code lookups. There's been just feedback about exams. And I'm working on making some more humorous content as well. Don't forget tomorrow, if you're watching this live, is ICD-10-CM Updates Day. It's also the day apparently we're gonna lose a whole bunch of telehealth benefits. Yeah, that's a whole other live stream though. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, if you're looking for medical coding training, check out medicalcodingmasterclass.com for more information about how to get into a career and more information about prepping. I will see you guys in the next video. And until then, just keep on coding on.